Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talks with Tanya. Hey, thank you so very much for joining. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome back to Talks with Tanya today. I appreciate you. You know, I appreciate you and love you for being here with me. All right, we are definitely on live. Hey, hi, Kenya. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, Kenya. I had to make sure I'm on time. Kenya's my sister. She gives me an overview of how I did after each show. There's the pressure. That's what family is for. All right. Well, we are good and live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talks with Tanya. My name is Tanya Bain, and we are here this evening on Tanya Inspires, where we are all about educating, informing, impacting, and connecting by sharing information that will build bridges to heal lives and lead to whole life success. And I always like to reiterate that whole life success for me indicates is a time when we are moving towards that balance. All right, that balance in being healed mentally, physically, spiritually, familially, financially, in all of the areas that encompass us as humans, so that as we do that, we are really able to make a difference not only in our lives and the lives of our family, but a difference in all of the lives that we touch. I like to make sure that I repeat every week what I believe is important in terms of how we set our foundation and move forward in our journeys, that we make sure that we use every tool and every piece of wisdom that we've acquired on our journey, and all of the lessons that we've learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the books that we've read, the lives that we've interchanged with, all of that information and experience that's been acquired so that we can make a difference today. I've shared with you on multiple occasions hi, welcome, how over the past, I can't even believe this is now October, so almost a year, I have, I received this message about it's time. It is time. And at the time, I wasn't like, it is time for what? Well, it's time for us to take action and to do things, because I believe that if we are not part of the solution, we are part of the problem. And it doesn't take long for us to open our eyes and listen around, or take a look around and look at all of the areas and the opportunities that we have to serve. So I appreciate you coming on with me this evening. I want to let you know that I'm really excited as well that we have Talks with Tanya on Sunday at 8 p.m. and also on Saturday at 11 a.m. I drop the podcast, Talks with Tanya, the podcast. So you have an opportunity to hear the interviews and the guests and the topics that we talk about on the podcast as well. I appreciate your support there as well. I am particularly excited today about today's guest. And I am going to bring her on. Hi, Antoinette. Hi, Be Right. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Where would I be without the people that support me? I need to let them know that they are certainly appreciated. But let me just tell you just a teeny weeny bit about a little bit about our guest, and then I'm going to bring her on because I always have a story about the guest. It's just how it happened. But many moons ago, I was watching local cable broadcast here in Wilmington, Delaware. And there was this young lady, a young Hispanic lady, that was, I believe, sitting outside of the then courthouse, because it's in a different place now. It's a brand new, complicated building now. But sitting outside of the courthouse in Wilmington, and she was interviewing some guests or people that were walking by. And I was so impressed. First of all, I was impressed with her energy. All right. And how she was able to capture the audience, okay, and get them to comment on the questions that she had. And I just love that energy. And I remembered, I was like, wow, this young lady is amazing. And she couldn't have been more than in high school, I believe, that it was. And that was the first time that I crossed paths with our guest this evening. And her name is Miss Yesenia Tavares. I'm going to bring Yesenia on. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Talks with Tanya. I appreciate you. I was sharing with Yesenia that she has been on my number one person on my dream guest list. On my dream guest list. And I'm just so excited because for me, it's confirmation that when you set your intentions and you do the work, anything can happen. So I am really honored that you are here with us, but I want to make sure that I share some of your great accomplishments that you have worked so hard to bring to us. Yesenia Tavares is the founder and CEO of Yesenia Tavares Enterprises. She is also the senior producer and on-air talent at WITN 22 TV here in the great state of Delaware. As our paths had crossed in the past in the community, I have been blessed by her steadfast and immovable faith, her transparency, and her power to motivate and to heal others. So I really am honored to have her as a guest today. She has so many great accomplishments. She is the host of the station's only live talk show, In Focus, which also won first place for Best Television Talk Show. Also, she was recognized as the best television talk show host. Nothing like a little pressure to have her on the show. The best television video advertiser, the 2020 best on-scene news reporter, the 2020 best prepared reporter, and the 2020 best speech. Yes. And that is just a snippet of the accomplishments that she has worked hard to earn. Yesenia is the creative talent and an award-winning trailblazer who has established and served as a reporter of the Latin magazine style show Latinos en Acción, the host of La Conexión, The Connection, earning recognition, first place for the best television special programming, and first place as the best television talk show. Her accomplishments, I mean, I couldn't even like put them all down here. And it's very heartwarming, particularly as we are still in Hispanic Heritage Month. Mi hermana here, is of a Hispanic background like myself. And it just makes me so proud to be able to present her here on this platform. I would also be remiss if I didn't share with you that in addition to her award-winning journalism career, Yesenia is a nationally renowned public speaker, a national sexual assault and domestic violence survivor and activist who travels to share her story to inspire other victims and survivors to make their dreams come true while they continue to fight recovery. Yesenia, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Tell me how you're feeling today.
I am super excited for the opportunity to be sitting in this chair and being the person who's being interviewed as opposed to me interviewing someone else. It's a phenomenal experience. I think it's the first one this year for me to be able to step in this role in regards to who I am as a person outside of being a public figure and having my own talk show. So I am super grateful for this opportunity and thank you so much.
This is just a dream come true for me. And it really comes at such an appropriate time. We'll have you back, to talk about all of the other areas of your expertise. But particularly today, we have the opportunity to have you share about a topic that is not only important to you, but also to our listening audience, and that is that of domestic violence. Tell us, based on where you are, what brought you to becoming a spokesperson with that regard?
For me, it is more about extending the hand to help other victims understand that recovery is possible. I did not have that during my recovery process. I did have a therapist, but I didn't have like an activist or someone who's actually been through it. Therapists are generally trained to help a victim cope and recover with what they're going through. But it's very different when you have a person who was the victim and then the survivor who's actually gone through the same steps and journeys that you have gone through. So for me, I understand the fear. I understand the anxiety. I understand the depression. I understand the journey of trying to figure out and make sense of it all. Why did this happen to me? What signs did I miss out on? All these things that a victim actually experiences. I wanted to come up using my platform, since I'm great at public speaking, to show people that it doesn't have a face. Stereotypically, people think that domestic violence has to look a certain way or it only happens in certain people's households. That's not true. It can happen to anyone, and it looks like anything. It can happen to anybody's race, any country. It's an epidemic, unfortunately, that happens throughout our world. And it's my time to take my voice back. Domestic violence for some time has actually kept a lot of its victims in silence. Mm-hmm. And now is the time more than ever to break that silence and to empower other individuals to seek help, to seek healing and recovery, because it is possible. And I'm here today to share my story, to hopefully motivate other victims and survivors that I too can help them bring themselves out of what I too was also struggling with.
We spoke earlier, and we said we were talking about we don't look like what we've been through.
That's right.
And as a result of that, what happens, I believe, in the community is that we wear a mask, so to speak, right? And we try to go on with our day or with our lives without that healing that is necessary. So why don't you share with us what your personal experience has been with domestic violence and this horrible
Trauma.
Thank you, that we deal with.
Yes. So my story came out of like nowhere. It was unexpected. I was dating an individual for quite a long time. Was best friends with him. Actually knew him for a long time, and I never seen any signs. He's very charismatic, very charming, very well known in the community. Just an all-round type of guy, great family guy, and there was just no signs of any type of harm doing with this individual. And so I never thought about it, never crossed my mind that a day may come about where I would be physically harmed. So for me, this happened during the time where spiritually I was growing within my path in regards to my belief in God. And I was starting to understand the powers of spiritual wars that is out here, something that I was never trained about or thought about or spoken to about. I never read about this in books. Churches I went to, I never learned about spiritual wars. And the deeper I dived into just being a Christian, reading the Bible, and trying to figure out my identity in Christ as opposed to my identity in this world as a public figure, as a talk show host, all those things are great. But I serve a higher being, a higher power, and I wanted to make sure that as a human being, I was fulfilling my purpose in his eyes. So during my spiritual journey, I was asking God to remove those people that are not of him, that do not represent him, that basically are going to hinder my walk in my purpose. And in the process of doing that, I started to see things revealed in other areas of my life when it came to friends or a person that I was dating. And so for me, I particularly started to pay attention in behavior. Now, as a busybody in the industry, I don't have time to really, and I'm a single mother too. So I'm taking care of 2 kids. Shout out to my mom and my dad who really helped me as my support system in raising them, and my aunt as well. But in the midst of just living day-to-day life, I don't have the time that most single women do when it comes to dating a man and understanding his behavior, his patterns, and things of that nature. I'm really focused on my career. I'm focused on being an advocate, making change in my community, and also raising 2 young, beautiful children. So with that being said, it didn't cross my mind until the pandemic hit. And once the pandemic hit, that opened up the opportunity for individuals to be face-to-face and spend more time with each other. So things start to come to surface that for a new person like me who hasn't been in a dating world for a long time, just to see things that you've never noticed before about a person, even if this person was your friend for so many years. What happens behind closed doors generally is not spoken about or seen on the other side. And so that is what my journey had opened my eyes to, is how people are very different behind closed doors. And that's part of the reason why I'm coming out to talk about my story, because I want people to understand that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be living in a household that doesn't have a strong foundation, is not being held up the way that you want it to be. The thing here is to really seek the help that you need and to seek help. So for me, we would have conversations that I didn't know that domestic violence is a spectrum. There's all forms of it. There's the humiliation, there's the belittling, there's the yelling, there's a profanity. It's just not the things that you're taught in high school or middle school, like the chokeholds or the pulling the hair, or the punching, the beating up. Those are things that you're taught in elementary school, but that's not the spectrum of domestic violence. Domestic violence could be the individual cursing at the other person. They could use finances in regards of a power control situation, taking checks away from the other partner when they get paid. It's a huge list of ways to look into in regards to domestic violence is concerned. So for me, I experienced some of those that I just listed towards the end of what I call the end of the relationship / friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a statistic out there. 80% of individuals who are in a relationship that is traumatizing and it is intimate partner violence or domestic violence, 80% of the victims, when they decide to end the friendship / relationship, are injured tremendously or found dead. So that's why people will often ask, why do these individuals stay in relationships with these people who are doing harm to them? The statistics are, the numbers don't lie. 80% of these victims, when they try to get out of this relationship, they are found really seriously injured or they were found dead. And so I had, again, no clue about this because I wasn't in that type of relationship. So it wasn't until I decided to end the relationship when the individual had decided to strangle me and choke me. And so it was to the point where it was the strongest grip on my neck that I could never imagine or wish upon anyone. What I learned in Christianity is that the individual who is a strong believer in Christ possesses light. And it is the enemy's job to kill, steal, and destroy. So the enemy is going to do what it can do to destroy that light that is within you as a believer. And so I wasn't understanding what was going on at the time. And it happened in a secluded place where no one could hear me scream, no one could hear me cry, no one could hear me shout for help. There was no one in arm's reach to help me. So I don't even know to this day if this was thought about prior to it happening, but it happened. And one thing that it was able to save me from the situation where I was asking him to release because he wouldn't release, I said a prayer internally. And I had asked God, I said, God, it's often individuals who are seeking this belief in God, they often question him like, is he real?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I was being strangled through this chokehold that I couldn't get out of, which felt like forever, I said a prayer to God and I said, God, you say you are the I am.
Yes.
You said in the Bible that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. You also said you shall never leave me nor forsake me. So if you are who you say you are and you're with me at this very moment, I need to get out of this situation. I need to get back home to my kids. I need to survive. I cannot freeze. I cannot stay here. I need to get out. So release him from me.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, he released.
Wow.
So I can't explain it. I didn't have anything to help myself in regards to to just get him off of me other than my strength and the word and prayer. And immediately he apologized. And there was a series of events that happened after that. One of them that had me in the hospital for more than 10 hours. And I want to share this part because a lot of victims, when they experience this is happening all the time in Wilmington, Delaware, in Newcastle County. This is happening right now as I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Every 60 seconds, there are 20 individuals who become victims to domestic violence. So the calls are nonstop. So the police officers have a high volume of domestic violence calls and not enough police officers just send out on the streets because of all the other violence and all the other things that they have to tend to as well. Again, I didn't know this until I got into this situation. So when I was at the hospital, there was no police officer. And there was supposed to be a police officer, but one never showed up. And so, thank God that at Christiana Care, we have the type of doctors that we have. Salute to them because they're very trained. They know what they're doing. And they were able to basically educate me in regards to what options I have as a victim / survivor to pursue. options that I didn't know were available. Now, be mindful during this whole process. I'm Latina, pero yo puedo hablar en inglés. So I'm Spanish, but I can speak English. My heart goes out to all of those who do not speak English as their first language, because if they were in my shoes at that moment, they would not know how to maneuver this system that is currently out there. And so that's why I'm here to speak, because I want to help individuals know the system and what to expect so they can navigate through it and not have to go through the hardships that I went through. And so the Wilmington Hospital was where I was at in Christiana, and they don't have a forensic science unit there. So if you wish to pursue and file charges on a person who, in that this is an intimate partner, a spouse, a boyfriend, anyone who has been assaulted, if you wanted to pursue this, you can go to what they call the Forensic Science Unit Department at the Christiana Hospital. Well, Wilmington's hospital location does not have that. So you will have to go to the Newark Hospital. Now, I thankfully had my cousin with me. Shout out to her, because she was my backbone during this whole chaotic, traumatic process, who was there for me throughout the whole journey. But she was the one who was able to transport me from Wilmington Christiana Care to Newark Christiana Care, because Newark Christiana Hospital is the only place where they have a forensic science unit to get examined. And so in the process of traveling over there, if you could only imagine, I mean, I was in Wilmington Hospital for like 6 hours. Now I'm getting ready to go to Newark Hospital. So there was no sleep, no coffee, no nothing. It's just trauma, anxiety, paranoid. What just happened? I almost died, could have died. I couldn't breathe. It's just an overwhelming experience. And the only thing that you're really focused on is, thank God I'm alive. Like, whew, about to get emotional, but like, thank God I'm here. Like, thank God. You don't know what it's like to breathe until your breath is taken away. And when you come from that experience, it is a profound experience knowing that your life has purpose and you're here for a reason. And I'm talking about bigger than television. That's just one vehicle and platform. But I honestly believe God has created me for something bigger, because I was in a situation I did not ask for, but he brought me out of it. And so in the process of traveling to the Newark Hospital, that's where I was able to get a forensic science unit to survey and to see what happened. So basically, like when I was in college, a lot of people know this about my story. I was 18 years old, only 3 months on campus when I got raped in college. And at that time, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have an activist, but I filed a police report right away on campus with the police station. And then the police officer drove me from the university to the local hospital. And it was at the local hospital where I received a rape kit. And so rape kit is when you get examined by it was a purple violet light. And so at the time I was bit, and it was a traumatic experience, but the individual had bit me everywhere. So they had to swab my face. They had to put the purple light on me to see where these marks were at, take photos. Rape kits, they go inside of you like you're at the gynecologist. So if you could just picture it being very cold, traumatic, and that's that experience. So I was aware of what a rape kit was. I had no clue what a forensic science was. And so basically it's the same thing that's out there for individuals, but it allows the individual to get control and power back in their life. And so the nurse works with you in regards to trying to figure out what happened to you. And I always say it's best to have someone with you, because if you're already telling someone everything that happened to you, it kind of helps you during the process when you've lost all these hours of no sleep and you're being traumatized. But if you don't, I would say right away, just try to record. Now then, like your phones, you have recorders on your phones. As soon as the incident happens, like just record yourself telling yourself what happened. So that way, when it's time for you to tell the story, you can recall it in a moment of anxiety and depression and pressure and all that. So for me, that was my story. And it was a traumatic one. thank God I had a therapist, immediately seek therapy. And my therapist was patient with me because I didn't understand why I wasn't strong. You know, people see me as a strong individual, but after that happened to me, I didn't know why I wasn't strong. And I was questioning my strength because a victim who experiences that all of a sudden experiences insomnia. So you're not sleeping at night. You're not sleeping at night. You're not sleeping during the day. You're not eating. You're kind of shutting yourself off to the world, and you're put in this, like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a hole that you're in, or a well that you can't get out of, and you're just really to yourself, but then you're outside of yourself still trying to manage life. So I'm still like taking care of my kids. I'm not crying in front of my kids because I need to be strong for them. I need to make sure that they don't see a weak mommy. They still have school. They still need to move forward with things in life. And so your emotions get put in the back burner. And I never learned that as a strong individual, as a person, even when you're broken, you need to give yourself time to heal. And that's exactly what I did. I gave myself the time where I paused and I said, you know what? I love my community. I love the people that I serve, but now this is about me. Now this is about giving myself the love that I need to give myself, the time that I need to give myself to heal, close off to the world, no calls with friends. I shut everything down. And it was just me and God. And I said to myself, what do I need to do to get out of this? Because I don't want to be in it anymore. The doctors throw painkillers at you. They throw anxiety pills at you. As we all know, doctors don't like follow the holistic path. And I'm real big when it comes to like that kind of stuff. I want to be on the holistic side as opposed to any type of prescriptions, because I don't want to get hooked on prescriptions and things like that. I'm a huge believer in the recovery process, but I believe there are ways we can recover naturally as opposed to getting put on something that can actually have other side effects. And so I was in major pain though. I was in like it was just so much pain. Like what I'm doing right now, sitting here talking to you, I wasn't able to do that. I had to go through therapy for months just to get rid of that pain. And you're taking me back. But mentally, if you're not strong, like I'm trying to shed some light so people can understand why women who are going through this have it so hard. You have to be, I mean, look at me. I'm considered strong. People aren't as strong as I am. So you have to understand the mental state of mind that these victims and survivors are going through. And, you know, during that dark time in my life, I didn't even know recovery was possible. I was scared and frightened every night. I was looking up over my shoulder every time I was going to the grocery store to go buy food. I was questioning my safety, didn't know if this man was going to try to finish me and kill me because, like I told you, 80% of victims are found dead. Ironically, the night I was at Christiana Hospital, one of the nurses there who was attending to me when I was getting my CAT scan was telling me that her sister, that was her sister's 11th year anniversary of dying from her fiance who killed her when they were going on vacation. And that just resonated to me because she sat down with me. I'll never forget this nurse. And, you know, to protect her privacy, I won't say her name, but she said to me, please don't go back, because my sister went back and she never made it. So, you know, it's a vicious cycle that women don't understand, and they stay in it because they really love that person. Right. And it's an unconditional love. And, you know, these guys really do like what they call gaslighting.
Yes.
Never heard of it, but gaslighting is when the abuser sows seeds of manipulation, doubt, questioning, the victim's perception, memory, you know, just themselves. And so gaslighting is a huge thing that these abusers do. And in the process, the victim's trying to figure out who they are as a person in the relationship, and how could this person that they give their trust to can do this to them. I mean, I was lucky to come out, but most women, I'm part of a domestic violence group on Facebook. And I speak to a lot of women throughout the world, not just US. I mean, this is huge, well over hundreds of thousands of followers. And a common theme is that the victims are scared to leave because they have kids involved, they're married, they have dogs, they have cats that they don't want to leave behind. And you also have to remember, you're asking a person to leave a situation where they're gonna have to pack up their bags and go where? Some women don't want to go to a shelter. So you're gonna have to find an apartment. You're gonna have to have your first month and a deposit available. And that's if you've been working, because if you've been a stay-at-home mom, you don't have these funds available. And if you've been a stay-at-home mom with an abuser who's been keeping the money away from you, you don't have those funds available. So the escape route, it just doesn't look deemable, doesn't look achievable. So a lot of women just like, I'd rather just stay. And it's a vicious cycle. And so for me, I'm just glad I got out. I thank God every day. Like a lot of people are saying, like recently, these last couple of weeks, they've been seeing a different side of me. That's because I'm so thankful to God for being alive. I know what it's like to not breathe. And I don't wish that on any woman in this world. And when you come from that, you understand the force that lies within you. You understand the power that lies within you. And I'm not being quiet anymore. I think the opportunity, this is the first time me going public on your show, because I want to empower women that although the abuser has tried to take your power away from you and has been trying to take control over you, you have more power and control over them. And you can get out. There are organizations out here. There are other people out here. There's a sisterhood. I call us a sisterhood. And I'm creating a nonprofit organization that's going to speak to this. But there's a sisterhood out here. And I'm working with other women, other victims in other states throughout the United States. We've developed what we call the Underground Railroad, but for survivors, where we're connecting with other victims to other places. If you have like a house, or if you have an apartment that you can that you can lease for free for the first 30 days to a victim. These are things that we're putting together, and we're working with other individuals throughout the country to help just get this scapegoat ready, this pathway ready. And that's why I'm here. My job, I really feel as an individual, outside of myself as a public figure, people see me in the community, and that's beautiful. But my biggest thing here and my passion here is being a survivor and understanding that our life is very precious and very valuable, and it's nothing to play with, because once it's almost attempted to be taken away from you, it is only then do you understand how valuable you are as a human being.
Absolutely. I applaud your transparency. When we spoke earlier, we just briefly talked about, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? But if it's just one person, just one life that we're able to save, just a connection that can be made, a voice of hope, and that's why, I saw your hashtag, voice is power, and your voice is power. And it doesn't have to be loud. Okay. But it's just being able to speak to that. The numbers are staggering. And you're involved with this, globally. And it's not just men, or it's not just women. There was a survey that was taken, and it's something like 45% of women and 40% of men have experienced intimate partner physical violence. Okay. Intimate partner sexual violence in their lifetime. So just so that we can recognize some of the signals, some of the signs, because when we talked earlier, you said, like, I didn't really pay attention to some of this stuff because I'm busy. I'm going to work and I'm trying to, keep my kids. Repeat again, what are some of the signs that we really need to be aware of?
Okay, so always remember, An abuser who has done this before and has gotten away with it will proceed with caution. So they're not going to give you punches. They're not going to give you slaps on the face. They're not going to pull your hair, kick you in your knee or your arm. It's going to be a slow process. And part of their, I guess you can say, tactic is to charm you. So that way, when things start to happen later down the road, you question yourself. Like, is this for real? Like, is this really happening? And so part of that, as I mentioned earlier, is the gaslighting. Gaslighting is huge. And gaslighting, again, is when an individual, the abuser, sows seeds of doubts in the victim in regards to what they remember, in regards to how they perceive the situation, their self-worth. There's so many different tactics. And so if I can pin an example, that could be something like the abuser, like you want to go out and hang out with your friends one day. You're not thinking anything of it. But then all of a sudden you get a phone call and the abuser's just like digging in on who you are as a person. And it could be anything like calling you stupid, look at your ugly face. I mean, I'm just throwing some examples out there that could possibly happen. But it's the belittling factor.
Yeah.
Like I told you, it starts in small steps. So and I often think of, like, I don't know why I'm thinking military right now. When they train you, they like bring you down first before they bring you up. Kind of similar to that. Their tactic is really to question your own self-worth and your own power. And so they're going to attack you with so many different ways. It could be profanity, cursing at you. And then if you address the cursing and they fix the cursing and they don't curse anymore because, hey, everyone curses. So it's just like, okay, you're not thinking that's something alarming. Exactly. But then another red flag is thrown at you. And that can be the belittling. Or there can be a conversation all of a sudden one day where you're talking about finances. Oh, and this is how much I've given you, or this is how much I've spent on gifts. And you're like, why are we having a conversation about what we've been spending on each other with gifts? Like, I make my own money, you make your own money. Like, I don't understand. But there's ways where they try to ease in, control the finances in the house, or to control the gift given. There's silent treatment is huge. There's a tactic where they use a silent treatment. There's a tactic where for some people, they're not intimate anymore. They take the intimacy away, and then they'll bring it back only when they want to. And intimacy can be anything. It doesn't have to only be sexual acts. It could be a hug. It could be a kiss. So for example, for some married women that I work with, their spouses stop giving them kisses, stop hugging them, they stop sleeping with them. These are signs of that control that the abuser is trying to have over the victim. And so what happens in this process is that the victim's psychological wise is feeling less powerful in themselves. They're not feeling that strength anymore. So although you can be this big, strong person, in your mind, mentally, what this abuser has done to the victim is belittled them.
Yes.
So therefore, when it's time to act and time to get out and time to react to the situation, you feel like you have no control or no power over it, because these are things that are happening over time. And so those are just a few that I mentioned off the top of my head. But their main job is to really question your judgment. To have you question your judgment, because as soon as they see that you're trying to pick up on things, and it could be anything, men or women, they cheat on their spouses during this process because they're training up another woman or another man. That's found out a lot as I did my research, is that these abusers, they have more than one victim, and sometimes they have more than one victim at the same time. They just don't know it, and so that's when you see the silent treatment, but they're actually grooming someone else. And so it's a very vicious cycle. But if you can, and I don't want to say Google and research, because sometimes these abusers, they check the victim's phones, they check the victim's computers, their history tabs, and see what they've been searching. But if they can, like, my biggest thing that I've been trying to help women is to see the signs and know the signs, which I just mentioned. And once you know them, try to develop an exit plan. So, for example, like my daughter has multiple food allergies and she has chronic asthma. right away when you go to the hospital, they're going to give you an asthma action plan and a food allergy action plan. So if she were to eat something that she's allergic to, right away you give her the EpiPen. If she was to have a chronic asthma attack, right away you give her the inhaler. Who in this world has taught you what to do to get out of a domestic violence situation? Did you learn that in high school? Did you learn that in elementary school? Did you learn that in college?
No.
So I'm working with victims and survivors, and shout out to my accountability partner, Erica. Her and I go to church together. She pours in me so much, and I've been working with her. She has an organization too called Glad to Be Alive, but we're connecting and partnering together. I'm working with a lot of other women throughout the country to formulate this exit plan for survivors. These are women I talk to on Facebook all the time on how to get out, to have this action plan. How do I get out of this situation? And little by little, you have to pour in seeds of strength within your own self. So that way you can start communicating to other people. So if that's communicating to a friend, if that's communicating to a parent, a relative, because you have to also remember some of these victims who are in these situations, they don't have family.
Yes.
Or they don't have friends, because that's another sign. The abuser also starts little by little to remove all of the friends of the victim.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start to see that, like, less time spending outside, less invitations to be with your friends, because all of a sudden the abuser's got this jealousy thing going on out of nowhere, that's another red flag. And so you got to create an exit plan. Once you see the signs, you got to try to figure out how you're going to get out. And for a lot of women, they don't want to go to shelters. We do know there's shelters out here for women who are going through domestic violence. But a lot of women don't want, I don't want to put, that was an option for me. And I was like, I'm not putting myself and my children in a shelter. Like, no, because the first thing they teach you, the first thing the police officer and doctor is going to teach you is you do not go home. You do not go home. But if you're married to this guy, where am I going to go? Or if this is your fiance, like, where are you going to go? Or if this is a boyfriend that you're, young girls at this time, 19, 20, 20, who are cohabitating with the individual, and that's their lifeline, where are you going to go?
Exactly.
So you have to begin to create an exit plan. And the same way you would do with an inhaler and EpiPen is the same way these individuals, these victims, have to do with themselves. So if that's creating a bag of clothes, my mom did that. Make sure you have like a bag of clothes ready to go. And sadly enough, I hate to make this analogy, but it is truly like the movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I cannot express how this journey in this life is so real, like that movie. She had a car, a different car ready, set up with cash in the car. She had the keys in the car. She had the trunk full of clothes. She had a wig in the trunk. She had clothes for her baby because she was married to the individual who was abusing her, for those who haven't seen the movie Enough. And when she was tired of her husband beating up on her, and she was ready to get out, she got in the car and she got out and she went to the other car that she had hidden somewhere, and she went ahead and just drove off, and she was able to escape and go to a whole nother country. But this is a real life situation.
It's real.
These are the signs to look for. And I'm just hoping to encourage someone to get your exit plan together, because you can leave.
Yes.
And I haven't talked about that, but I understand why women go back. I can't speak for men because I'm not a man, but I understand why women want to go back, because if you were with this individual, for some women I know who've been married for 10 years with an abuser, that's all you know. So naturally, as human beings, we are habitual. We do things in habit and in routine. And there's a statistics, it takes 90 days or more for a new trained habit to become a habit. So if you're asking me as a victim to remove myself from a situation I've spent the last 10 years of my life in, how do I have the strength to do that?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that? And so that's where you have to come in with your exit plan in regards to how you're going to be able to cope with that. Now you're going to go through withdrawals, and withdrawals could be anything. It could be withdrawal from intimacy. It could be withdrawal from a hug. It could be withdrawal from just love, talking to the person. Oh my God, it's like night and day. All of a sudden you're talking to the person and you're not talking to the person ever again for the rest of your life. So how do you deal with that type of withdrawal when this person was ultimately your best friend, but now you're no longer talking to that person anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, I always say, find people in your circle who you can lean on because they will be your strength. I'm thankfully to God that I had my parents, I have my aunts, I have my brothers, I have some friends. Like, there is a support system that I had intact. And for me, I'm a spiritual person. So I had my pastor calling me every day. Not just one. I had two pastors, one in Delaware and one in Philly, checking in on me every single day, offering a helping hand, pouring in me spiritually. Because what I was experiencing in the physical world, I was experiencing in the spiritual world.
Yes.
And so for me, spiritually, I had to feed myself again also. And so, and for me, my therapist and my life coach, they say I'm not like most of their clients. But for me, what helped me out of my journey, like I know your question was in regards to the signs, I've shared the signs, but the exit plan, what's helped me in my journey is reading the Bible. Like I remember when I was in the process of healing, I was going through withdrawal. I was missing this person. Even though this person tried to kill me, I was still missing this person because naturally I'm a human being that cares for others.
Yes.
And I understand that, there's power in forgiving. And although I knew that, it took me a long time to forgive this individual because I've known this person since 2009. And so what I'm trying to say here is that what helped me was reading the Bible every single day and pouring into my spiritual self so that way I can do the work physically. Yeah. Because without the spiritual side, I wasn't able to do the work physically. So for me, I had to read the book because I didn't want to do what happened to me when I got raped. When I got raped, I turned into alcohol and I was drinking all the time, and that suppressed me. And that dealt with numbing the situation, but it didn't deal with the healing part.
Yes.
No one taught me, like I said, in high school and college and middle school, how to heal. And so I was healing myself and suppressing my emotions through alcohol. And I was drinking. But nobody knew exteriorly on the exterior side because I was succeeding. I was working for ESPN. I was working for Black Enterprise. I was working at Channel 6. I was working for all these major 500 corporations, top 50 in America. But inside, I was drowning. And because I went through that experience at 18 years old, I wanted to make sure today I wasn't going to repeat that. Because what happened then was I almost became atheist. Now I know who God is in my life, and I cannot become atheist again because I know he took me out of that situation. So what worked for me, part of my exit plan and getting out and dealing with the withdrawal, was the therapy. And I have a life coach, my family support system, and also just prayer and reading the Bible. Because, I don't want to talk like I'm a big Christian, because I like to call myself a born again Christian. I just got baptized less than 2 years ago, and I'm brand new to this because remember, I was Muslim. For those who don't know my story, I was Muslim for 13 years prior to coming back to Christ. And so I had to read the Bible again. And there's a story in the Bible, for those who don't know, where Noah is the gentleman that God gave the task of creating Noah's Ark and making sure he put a certain amount of animals in there, and he had his family in there to reproduce humanity once God flooded the world. So Noah's looked at as this big savior who created the world over again once God took over it. Well, a part of Noah's story that I never knew was that after all that happened, he came out and all the animals came out, he created a vineyard and he got drunk. And I've never read this story before because often when you go to churches, they preach a lot on empowering, but not scripture. Mm-hmm. And for me, when I was going through this journey and this withdrawal, I was done with empowering. I love T.D. Jakes and Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer, but I was done with that type. I wanted to learn the word physically in my hand with my own brain, my own thoughts, my own interpretation to figure out how I can get through this. And when I read that book on, when I read that story on Noah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, here's a man who God ordained to save the world, and he himself got drunk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's no condemnation in Christianity. So who am I to condemn myself when I used to drink back then after I got raped? So just reading the Bible helped me heal that part of me. Now I had to heal this part of the domestic violence part because that was brand new to me. And that's why I'm here today. That's when I woke up and I was like, okay, God, it's all about, I went through the journey, I've experienced it, and I came out. I'm thankful that I came out, but now I'm able to help other women and show them that I'm just one of many. There's so many women who I talk to and reach out to that they will never tell you what happens behind closed doors, but because I come out openly and I talk about it, they come to me. And sometimes it's a lot of pressure because I'm a very empathetic person. But I know God didn't give me more breath to breathe, more air to breathe and be here today if it wasn't to help another person. So I hope I was able to know the signs and creating an exit plan, because those are key steps in trying to get out a abusive, traumatic experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Being able to be transparent, and we throw that word around a lot lately. It's one of those new words that we like to say. But transparency means that you've allowed us to see through, okay, to who you are at every level of that experience. All right. And I do agree with you that these things have happened for a reason beyond what happened to you personally. Okay. Your strength and your way that you're working through the trauma really sets an example, okay, that shows us that it's doable. It is doable, that we need to connect with each other. We need to help each other. I mentioned to you earlier that I'm also very involved in working with childhood sexual abuse victims. And Sharia Schultz is on here. She is the president of Buddy Speaks, okay, who knew exactly what gaslighting was. And, when you're talking about emotional and psychological abuse.
Before the physical.
Yes, before the physical. Mm-hmm. And, understanding that and knowing the signs and creating a plan, you kind of think like, oh, wow, I shouldn't have to go through that. I've already gotten to this place in my life. And, why me? Because someone else needs to hear that. And your spiritual journey is extremely important because what it shows and what it demonstrates is that there is a way. Okay, there is a way for us to be able to get through that. And it's by being in touch in the deep place. It's doing what they call the shadow work. Mm-hmm. That shadow work that needs to be done. I believe that we are human and we are also divine because that's what the word says. Okay. And I applaud you for sharing that experience with us. I wanted to share with the audience, let me get to the right place, some of the additional resources that are available. And I'm actually going to post in the post for today a host of resources that we have available in Delaware. But if you're in crisis, you want to contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. Okay. You can also, in Delaware, there is the Delaware Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And I didn't write their number down, but they, everybody knows I will definitely put that in the notes of the for the show. And if you would like to reach Yesenia, you can reach her at yesenia.tav@gmail.com. Yesenia, any closing words and thoughts for us this evening?
Yeah, I just want to close with telling that young individual who is doubting or questioning because the judicial system fails us over and over again. I've been through that journey where, again, there was no officer there for me. I just want to encourage that person to proceed and go through with it. Because even if you don't see your day in court and you don't see justice, you get the power back by stepping out and moving forward. So you need to make that first step first. And don't even worry about if the court system is going to believe you or if you're going to win or see that day in justice. For me, I leave that battle for God to deal with. That's just who I am as a human being and as a person who believes. I may not see the day that justice is done, but I'm not here to pass judgment on anyone. And I'm not here to tell the court system what I feel this person's punishment should be. That's not my job. But what I'm trying to tell individuals who are going through this, especially young girls who are getting, God, please, they're getting beaten up by these boys. And it's become such a second nature for them. It's traumatizing even for me to see it and try to help the individual. But I want the person to know that just proceeding to get out, because once you get out, life is so much better on the other side. I promise you, I know it because I've been through it. I am out of it. I am such a changed person because of it. And I am enjoying life and the finer things in life. When I say finer things, I'm not talking about luxury. I'm talking about taking a walk and breathing in the air and just being in my own living room and understanding that this place is mine. Like there's a sense of peace that you get when you get that control and power back in your life. That's what I'm trying to encourage individuals to do. Just try to seek that way out and know that don't rely on justice being served. Rely on you getting your power and control back, because at the end of the day, you matter. I've worked with individuals who are very suicidal because this has happened to them. I understand that. I went through that mental pain and that trauma, but you're so much worth more than what this person has been telling you or what you think is. And just do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. If you don't have kids and you have pets, like just do it for you and for the ones you love. Because at the end of the day, your life has more value and more meaning to it than what this abuser is telling you.
Absolutely. Amen to that. All right. Thank you so very much, Yesenia. You and I will continue to connect as, we continue to share so that we can make a difference in people's lives. I appreciate you. To our guests out there, thank you so very much for joining, for your comments. Powerful testimony. You are powerful. Thank you for your transparency. We have Apostle Burton. He's given us a shout out. Okay. You're inspired, and he shared with you the scripture that we have, okay, that no power, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. This is just been an amazing interview. Thank you so very much for joining. For my audience, remember, this will drop as a podcast on Saturday. On Saturday morning on Talks with Tanya, the podcast, and I will return again on Sunday at 8 p.m. next week. You know how to reach me on Tanya Inspires, and everybody remember, you are loved and stay inspired. Thank you, everyone.